I was standing in that quiet little county office, my hands shaking more than they used to. The clerk slid the final document across the counter, the same damn paper my own son had signed without even reading it. My boy, Ethan, my only son, the same kid I once carried on my shoulders through snowstorms. The same kid who used to call me his hero. And now he stood across the room with that cold look on his face, like he didn't recognize me anymore. "Dad, just sign it," he said. No emotion, no warmth, just pressure, just business. He thought I didn't know what he was doing. He thought old age made me blind. But that paper, that damn paper, wasn't what he told me it was. I cleared my throat, my voice breaking the way it does at 76. "You sure about this, son? You really want to do this?" Ethan sighed hard. "Dad, you're useless now." "I'm trying to help, just sign it." Useless. That word hit harder than any punch I took in my younger days. But he didn't know. He didn't know I had already flipped the script. He didn't know I had already changed everything behind his back. He didn't know this signature, my signature, wasn't gonna ruin me. It was gonna ruin him. As the pen touched the paper, Ethan smirked, confident, careless, greedy. And that's the moment, that exact moment, where my whole damn world cracked open. Let me tell you how it all began. Life slows down when you cross 70. You start hearing things you used to ignore. Feelings get sharper, even when your bones don't. My days were simple back then. Wake up slow, make my coffee, sit on that old porch swing Mary picked out before she passed. I'd watch the neighborhood kids ride their bikes like the world had no edges. But Ethan, he didn't visit much anymore. He used to call daily, used to bring me groceries, used to ask, "Dad, you good, need anything?" But somewhere in the last 2 years, he changed. His calls turned into texts, his visits turned into excuses. And his tone, man, that tone, got colder every month. The first real crack showed one Sunday afternoon. Ethan pulled up in his shiny new black truck, the one he bought the same week he told me he couldn't afford my medication copay. He didn't even wave, just walked up fast, like he was running late to something more important than me. "Dad, we gotta talk," he said, stepping into my living room. His eyes scanned the place, Mary's pictures, the quilt she made, the wooden shelves she loved. He looked at it all like it was junk. "What's wrong?" I asked, slow and calm. "Dad, this house? It's too big for you." He paused. "You should move into assisted living." My chest tightened. Not from age, but from the disrespect in his voice. "I'm fine right here," I said. Ethan scoffed. "Dad, you can't even mow the lawn anymore. That lawn." He knew it was the last thing I still tried to take care of myself. "Son, this is your mother's home, my home. Our family home." He shrugged like none of that meant a thing. "Well, it's sitting on money, Dad, real money. You could sell it, relax, enjoy yourself." But I knew that tone, that push, that fake concern. It wasn't about me relaxing. It was about him cashing in. My voice dropped low. "Ethan, what are you really after?" His jaw tightened. And then he slipped, just a little. "Look, Dad, I got investments I'm trying to expand. Opportunities. I just need you to trust me." Investments. Opportunities. Words I never heard from him when he didn't have that girlfriend who always whispered in his ear. Something was wrong, real wrong. And for the first time in my life, I felt my own son pulling away from me, not out of distance, but out of greed. I watched him walk out the door that day. And my heart whispered something I didn't want to believe yet. He ain't looking out for you anymore. But the real pain, the real betrayal, that was still coming. Ethan stopped being my son in small ways first. Little things you'd miss if you weren't old enough to feel every shift in a person's heart. A missed birthday call, a short, dry can't talk, busy, a promise to visit. Then canceling last minute. But the day I truly felt the change was the day I walked into my own kitchen and heard him whispering on the phone. A whisper meant to stay hidden. He thought I was talking my evening nap. But at 76, sleep don't come easy. Worrying, though, that comes real fast. I got up slow, leaned on my cane, and shuffled down the hall. Ethan's voice was low, stressed, sharp, desperate. "Yeah, babe," I told him. "He'll sign soon. He has to." I froze. He wasn't talking to me. He wasn't talking for me. He was talking about me. I peeked just enough to see him standing near the kitchen table Mary and I bought 40 years ago. A place where we shared meals, birthdays, tears, everything. And there he was, plotting something. He ran a hand through his hair, agitated. No, he won't question it. He trusts me. And once the house is transferred, we're clear. The investors are ready. I'll finally have the capital, investors, capital, transfer. My stomach dropped. I backed up fast, faster than my legs liked, and slipped into the hallway before he turned around. A few seconds later, he hung up and stepped into the living room, forcing a smile. Dad, you still awake? He asked. I nodded slow, just thinking. He sat across from me, leaning forward like he cared. Dad, remember what we talked about, you moving somewhere with better care. I found a great place, beautiful rooms, nurses on call. You don't have to worry anymore. I stared at him long, very long. Ethan, I said softly, you thinking about my safety? Or about something else? His eyes flickered, only for a second, but I caught it. You can't hide from a man who raised you. What, Dad? Come on. I'm just trying to help, but his voice wasn't warm. It was rehearsed, like someone else had told him what to say. A silence settled between us, heavy, thick, unfamiliar. Then Ethan said the line that burned into me like fire. Dad, you're old. You can't manage all this anymore. Let me handle things from now on. Old, useless, a burden. That's what he meant, even if he didn't say it yet. I nodded slowly, pretending to agree, pretending I couldn't see the betrayal forming in his eyes. But inside, a storm began, a quiet storm, a patient storm. Because if my own son was planning something behind my back, I needed to know exactly how far he'd go. And soon, I discovered the truth, a truth darker than I ever imagined. There comes a point in every old man's life where you stop wishing for the best and start preparing for the worst. For me, that point came the night I found an envelope tucked under a stack of old magazines on my porch, an envelope not meant for my eyes. It was addressed to Ethan Carlson. Not to me, not to Dad, just his name, cold and businesslike. The return address said Harrington and Bloom Real Estate Group. My heart thumped slow but heavy. I sat down on that porch swing, Mary's porch swing, and opened it with hands that shook from more than age. Inside was a formal letter, a letter congratulating Ethan on the pending acquisition of his father's property and confirming the pre-evaluation market offer of $742,000. Contingent on my signature. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. He wasn't just selling the house. He was selling everything Mary and I built while I was still alive to watch it happen. I read the letter twice, then a third time. Each sentence cut deeper. Your father's assisted living placement will be finalized the same week. We will send movers to clear the property within 48 hours of transfer. Movers, 48 hours. Clear the property. They were already talking like I was gone. Killed me without burying me. My hands clenched so tight the paper bent. I whispered to myself, Ethan, what the hell are you doing, son? I needed answers, real answers. So the next morning, I walked into my late wife's sewing room, the one nobody touched. Not even Ethan. Mary always kept everything labeled, organized, neat, and tucked inside her little wooden desk drawer, right where she used to keep her notes and recipes. I found something that made my breath stop, a manila folder labeled in her handwriting. In case something happens, for Harold only. My name, in her soft cursive. 20 years later, her handwriting still felt warmer than my son's voice. Inside the folder were our marriage certificate, the original deed to the house, a copy of our will, and one document I had forgotten existed. A power of attorney transfer addendum, signed by both of us years ago. I remember the day clearly now. Mary insisted we add a clause to protect each other if something ever went wrong. The clause said, no property may be sold, transferred, or leveraged without the mutual consent of both spouses or the surviving spouse alone, which meant, even if Ethan tried to manipulate me, even if he tricked me, even if he rushed my signature, he couldn't legally sell the house, not without me authorizing the whole thing knowingly and willingly. And I realized, he hadn't read that old clause. He didn't know, he thought he had full control. He didn't. Mary had protected me. Even from the grave, my eyes watered, not from sadness alone, but from the mix of heartbreak and the first spark of justice. But the shock wasn't over, because at the bottom of the folder was a second envelope, sealed, with my name again. I opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note from Mary. Harold. If Ethan ever forgets who he is, or forgets who you are, trust your instincts. Protect yourself, protect our home, protect our memories. Love, forever, and my chest cracked open, my breath caught, and right then, right in that quiet room filled with all her scent and memories, I knew my son wasn't just being greedy, he was being guided, manipulated, pushed by someone else, because Ethan wasn't smart enough to orchestrate this alone. Someone was behind him, someone pushing him to take everything. And I finally knew who: his girlfriend, the same woman I had never trusted. The same woman who had once said to me, Ethan deserves more out of life. The same woman who never looked me in the eye. She wasn't after my son, she was after this house. After everything. My jaw tightened. My heart steadied. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was a setup, a trap. And I was about to walk straight into it, but not as their victim, as their reckoning. There's a different kind of cold that hits a man when he realizes his own blood ain't standing beside him anymore. It's standing against him, and that cold stayed with me for days. I didn't confront Ethan right away. Old age teaches you patience. Teaches you to listen twice and speak once. A younger man would have exploded, but me, I watched, I waited. And I paid attention to every crack in his voice. 3 days after finding Mary's folder, Ethan showed up again, this time with her. Sabrina, his girlfriend. Tall, polished, fake smiling, with that kind of confidence you only see in folks who ain't too scared to lose anything because nothing they're risking actually belongs to them. She walked into my house like she owned the place. Didn't wipe her shoes, didn't look at Mary's pictures. Didn't even say hello, just scanned the rooms. Like she was mentally picking out what she'd sell first. Hey, Harold, she finally said, voice sweet as artificial sugar. Hope you're feeling good today. I nodded. I'm old, not dead. Her smile twitched. Ethan jumped in quick. Dad, we really need to go over some things. Important things. I leaned back in my chair. Then talk. He looked at Sabrina. She gave the smallest nod, like she was giving him permission. And that's when I knew. She wasn't just influencing him. She was controlling him. Ethan pulled a folder from his bag and placed it on my coffee table. This is the assisted living place we talked about. They have full medical care, daily meals, transportation. Sabrina cut him off. Honestly, Harold, you'll love it. So peaceful, so quiet. And you won't have to stress about taking care of a property this big. She said big like it was a burden, like it was an inconvenience, like the home Mary built was just too much for my dying old hands. I felt my jaw clench, but I kept my voice calm. And what happens to this place? I asked. Ethan hesitated. Sabrina didn't. Well, selling it would be the smartest move. It frees up capital for your care. Your care. Not my comfort, not my wishes, not my memories, my care. Then Ethan added quietly, Dad, it's the best option. Seriously. I stared at them long and hard. You two seem real excited about me moving out, I said. Sabrina laughed lightly. Harold, don't be dramatic. Dramatic. That word stung more than old, maybe even more than useless. I leaned forward slow. So tell me something, whose idea was all this? Yours, Ethan, or hers? My son's face went pale. He opened his mouth, but Sabrina grabbed his hand gently, like she was protecting her puppet. Harold, she said, you're not thinking clearly. Ethan has responsibilities, goals, opportunities. He can't keep running over here every time you need help. This plan is what's best for everyone. Everyone. Meaning, her. I felt something inside me shift, not anger. Just clarity. I stood up slowly, leaning on my cane. You know, Sabrina, I met your type back in '68. Pretty face. Sharp tongue. No roots, always looking to climb. Even if they got a step on family to get higher. Her smile dropped. Ethan snapped, Dad, stop. You're out of line. I looked him dead in the eyes. No, son, you are. For the first time in months. He looked genuinely uncomfortable, and that's when my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I opened it discreetly. It was a screenshot. A whole chain of messages. Between Sabrina and a man named Connor. A man she called baby, a man she told, once the house sells, we're set. And he believes everything we say and he's old. He won't fight it. My chest tightened. not from pain, but from righteous fire. My hands shook as I slid my phone into my pocket. Ethan and Sabrina were still talking, their voices blending into a dull, greedy hum. But they didn't know what I knew now. They didn't know what I had just seen. Sabrina wasn't planning a future with my son. She was planning a payday, a clean exit, a new life with someone else. And she was using Ethan like a step stool to get there. My breath steadied. My heartbeat slowed. The truth had finally come to the surface, and now I knew exactly how deep their betrayal went, but more importantly, I knew exactly how I was going to destroy their plan. There's a moment, a quiet one, where an old man stops feeling hurt and starts feeling ready to defend what's his. Ready to fight smart, not loud, ready to use the one weapon young folks always underestimate: wisdom. The night after I saw Sabrina's messages, I sat alone on Mary's porch swing. The same creaky wooden thing that held 40 years of our life. I stared at the yard Ethan said I couldn't manage. I stared at the windows he planned to replace with modern upgrades. I stared at the porch he thought was outdated. They didn't want my home. They wanted my value, and they wanted it fast. I rested my hand on the armrest where Mary's initials were carved. "Don't worry, sweetheart," I whispered. "I ain't letting them take this. Old men don't get many battles left. So the ones we pick damn carefully," and I knew exactly where to start. At sunrise, I made a call to my old friend from church, Thomas Brigg, a man who'd worked 30 years as a county clerk, a man who knew real estate laws better than lawyers half his age. "Harold," he said, "it's been a while. I need to know how to protect my property," I told him, voice low. "And I need to do it without my son knowing." He paused. "Something wrong?" "Plenty," I said. Thomas met me that same afternoon at his kitchen table with warm coffee and that old leather briefcase he never let out of his sight. When I handed him Mary's folder, the deed, the clause, the will, he exhaled slow. "Well, your boy's in for a big surprise. This clause makes you the sole decision maker, Harold. Nobody can force a sale. Nobody can trick you into signing anything without full disclosure." I nodded. "Good. I need more than protection, Thomas. I need a plan." He raised an eyebrow. "A plan, yup," I said. "A quiet one," and the old man in him smiled. "Folks think old people can't use phones. They're wrong." Thomas helped me set up auto-record on my living room camera, the same little thing Sabrina once said was too outdated to matter. Outdated, huh? Good. That meant she'd ignore it. We sensed audio to my phone, every visit, every conversation, every lie, from that day forward. Every word Ethan or Sabrina spoke in my home went straight into my evidence folder, and it didn't take long to catch something. Only 2 days later, they came again, pushier, colder, more rushed than ever. "Dad, we need you to sign some documents," Ethan said. Sabrina chimed in, "It's all standard. We've explained this," but the camera caught everything they didn't want recorded. Her whispering to him, "Just keep pressuring him. He's scared to live alone. He'll cave." Him whispering back, "What if he doesn't sign?" Her answer chilled me to the bone. "We'll tell the facility he's unsafe. They'll step in, they'll move him anyway." They were planning to force me out. Force me into a home, force the sale. That recording alone was enough to bury both of them in legal fire. But I didn't stop there, not by a long shot. Next time they visited, I acted slower, shakier, confused, let my voice tremble a bit. Let my hands look unsteady. Maybe you're right," I muttered. "Maybe I can't manage things anymore." Sabrina lit up like a Christmas tree. Ethan sighed with relief, the kind of relief that breaks a father's heart. They pulled out the papers. I squinted, asked dumb questions, pretended not to understand the legal terms, just enough to make them think I'd fold. "Dad," Ethan said softly, "just sign. It'll make everything easier." I looked him dead in the eyes and whispered, "I'll sign." Next week. Sabrina's smile twitched again, the same greedy little twitch I knew so well. She thought she'd won, but next week wasn't gonna be her victory, it was gonna be their downfall. Because what she didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that the paper I planned to sign wasn't the one they brought. It was the one I had prepared, a document that would flip everything. A document that would expose them, trap them, and end their whole plan. All I needed was for them to show up one more time. And trust me, they showed up, but what happened next changed the whole damn game. the morning they were supposed to come back. I woke up earlier than usual. Not because of nerves, not because of fear, but because of purpose. At 76 years old, purpose hits different. It don't come from anger, it comes from clarity. And that day, I was clearer than I had been in years. I set the house exactly the way I wanted. Living room blinds half open, camera angled straight at the coffee table. The folder they wanted placed dead center, and right beside it, the document I made, a document Thomas helped me draft. A document that wasn't a house transfer, but a full legal consent waiver stating that anyone who tried to coerce, manipulate, or mislead me into signing property documents was committing real estate fraud. And at the bottom, a signature line, not for me, but for Ethan and Sabrina. If they signed it, they confessed, no court needed. If they refused, I had hours of recorded evidence ready for the sheriff. Either way, they were done. Their truck pulled up at 10:14 a.m. Sabrina walked in first, heels clicking like she was already dancing in my living room. Ethan followed, looking tired, hollow, like a man running on someone else's choices. "Dad," he said, "we brought the paperwork." I nodded slow. "Good, I have mine too." Sabrina paused. Her smile didn't. "Oh, what's that?" she asked lightly. "Just a small form," I said. "Something to protect us all. You know. Legal stuff." Her eyes flickered. Just for a second, but that second told me everything. She didn't like surprises, especially from an old man she thought was weak. I pushed my document toward them. "Before I sign anything," I said softly, "I just need you both to sign this little acknowledgement. Says you haven't pressured me, misled me, or convinced me into any property decisions." Ethan blinked. "Dad, what is this?" Sabrina stepped forward fast. "Harold, you don't need this. We've already discussed everything. Just sign your part so we can move forward." I leaned in, voice low and steady. "If there's no pressure, then signing this shouldn't be a problem." "Right." Her jaw tightened. Ethan looked confused, nervous, even. "Dad," he said, "why are you doing this?" I stared at my son longer than he expected. "Because I know what you're planning," I said quietly. "All of it." Sabrina froze, her shoulders stiffened. I reached for my phone, tapped one recording. Her voice filled the room. "Just keep pressuring him. He's old. He'll cave. Once the house sells, we're set." Ethan went pale. His knees actually buckled a little. "Sabrina," he whispered, "you said, you told me," but she snapped at him, "Shut up. Just shut up." There it was, the mask. Her real voice wasn't sweet, wasn't caring, wasn't loving. It was sharp, cruel, and filtered greed. I looked directly at her. "I know about Connor," I said. Her eyes widened. I pulled up the messages, the screenshots, and laid them on the table. One by one, Ethan stared at them like someone had ripped open his chest. "Sabrina, what is this? Who is he?" She didn't answer him. She didn't breathe. She didn't blink. Just froze. Like prey caught in a spotlight. "What the hell did you do?" Ethan choked out. She exploded. "Don't blame me. You're the idiot who believed everything I told you. You're the one who wanted the money. I gave you a plan and you followed it like a puppy." Her words hit him like bullets. My son sank onto the couch, staring at the floor, ashamed, shaken, broken. I didn't speak. Sometimes silence is heavier than anger. Finally, Sabrina grabbed her purse, her voice trembling with fury. "You old bastard, you set us up." I stood tall, taller than my age allowed most days. "No, you set yourselves up. I just turned the lights on." She stormed out the door. Never looked back at Ethan. Not once, for a long moment. My living room was nothing but quiet breathing and broken hearts. Ethan kept staring at the floor. "Dad," he whispered, voice cracking for the first time in years. I didn't know, I swear. I didn't know she was using me. I just wanted to prove something. To her, to myself." I sighed slow, heavy, painful. "Son. Wanting better ain't a sin. Hurting family to get it is." His eyes filled, and he wiped them with the back of his sleeve like he was still that little boy who used to run to me after scraping his knee. "I'm so sorry, Dad." And for the first time, I believed him. But belief isn't forgiveness. Forgiveness takes time. And consequences. Because while I wasn't gonna destroy my son, I sure as hell wasn't done teaching him a lesson he'd never forget. That night, I couldn't sleep. Hell, I couldn't even sit still. The old farmhouse creaked the way it always did, but now every sound felt heavier, like the walls themselves were whispering that I'd failed as a father. I sat at the kitchen table, same damn spot where Ethan used to do his homework while I baked cornbread for him. Same spot where he once asked me if angels were real. Same spot where he told me he got accepted into college, and I cried harder than he did. Now the only thing sitting across from me was the truth I had been trying to avoid. My son didn't love me. Not anymore. Not the way a child should love their father. He loved ownership, control, power, and I had let him get that far. I grabbed the old tin box I kept above the fridge, the one Ethan never knew existed. Inside were 40 years of quiet paperwork. Deeds, receipts, letters, bank slips, old agreements. Everything I didn't think I'd ever need. Everything he thought I didn't have. As I spread those papers across the table, I felt something tighten inside me, something sharp, something angry, something awake. This wasn't just about money anymore. This wasn't about my land. This wasn't about the damn company deal. This was about a father reclaiming his spine. I whispered into the empty kitchen, "All right, boy, you want to play dirty? Then you better pray to God you're better at it than I am." I flipped through the folder and stopped at one document. One Ethan never expected existed. One he didn't know I kept. A document that meant he couldn't sell my land. Couldn't seize my property. Couldn't touch a damn thing. Without one thing, my consent, written, notarized, final. And suddenly, I didn't feel old anymore. I didn't feel weak. I didn't feel broken. I felt dangerous. For the first time in months, I smiled. Because Ethan thought he had checkmated me, but the fool didn't know. I still had my queen on the board. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I didn't even drink my usual black coffee. I just grabbed my jacket, tucked the tin box papers under my arm, and stepped outside into that cold, sharp morning air that smelled like winter coming. Ethan thought I was broken. He thought I was slow. He thought I was predictable, but that day, I decided to remind him exactly who raised him. I drove straight to the county clerk's office, the same place he dragged me to last week like I was some confused old man who needed supervision. Susan, the clerk, looked up from her desk and smiled softly. "Morning, Mr. Reed. You're in early today." "Yeah," I grunted, placing my papers on the counter. "Got some updates to make." When she flipped through them, her eyebrows shot up. "Does your son know about these?" I chuckled, a dry, tired chuckle. "No, ma'am. And I'd appreciate if it stays that way for now." She nodded. "Of course." I signed document after document, updating ownerships, reaffirming rights, freezing transfers, locking titles. Every stroke of my pen felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. Then came the final step, the one Ethan never saw coming. I slid one more paper across the counter. "This one needs to be filed today." She read it, her eyes widening. This revokes the power of attorney your son made you sign." "Yep," I said calmly. "But he told you." "I know what he told me." I cut her off. "But he didn't expect I'd copy everything before signing. And he sure as hell didn't he expect I'd file this reversal before he tried anything funny." She stamped it, seal of acceptance, the loud thunk echoing like a gunshot in that quiet office. At that exact moment, the front door swung open, and there he was, Ethan, out of breath, face red, phone still in his hand. "Dad, what are you doing here?" His voice cracked, not in anger, not in confidence, but in fear. He must have gotten the notification that changes were filed. He must have panicked. I didn't turn around fully. Just looked over my shoulder, just talking back, "What's mine, son?" He marched forward, gripping my arm. "You can't do this. You can't undo the agreement. I already have buyers lined up." I stared at his hand until he let go. Then I held up the notarized reversal, still warm from the stamp. I just did. For a moment. Just a moment. I saw that little boy in his eyes again, the one who used to fear thunderstorms and run to my room. But it disappeared fast, replaced by rage, cold, ugly, desperate. "You're gonna regret this," he hissed. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "No, Ethan, you are." His jaw clenched. He wasn't in control anymore, not even a little. And that's when it hit him. The game had officially flipped. When I walked out of that county building, the winter sun was barely pushing through the clouds. Cold wind cut across my face, but for the first time in a long damn while, I felt warm inside. Warm, because I took my life back. Warm, because I finally remembered I wasn't some fragile old man sitting in the corner waiting to be used up. Warm, because the boy I raised had finally run out of places to hide. Ethan followed me out onto the sidewalk. Dad, please, just hear me out. That voice. Not the arrogant tone he always used, not the sharp, clipped orders he threw at me over dinner tables. This was different. This was a man who realized the ground under his feet had cracked open. But I didn't turn around, not right away. I let him stand there in that silence, the same silence he left me in the night he called me useless. When I finally spoke, my voice trembled just a little. You know, Ethan, I spent my whole life protecting you. I held your hand when you were scared of the dark. I worked double shifts so you could have things I never did. I taught you how to shave, how to drive, how to stand on your own 2 feet. I paused. And somewhere along the way, you forgot I had my own 2 feet. He swallowed hard. Dad, I didn't mean, you did, I whispered. You meant every word. He stepped closer. Please. Don't ruin my future over a mistake. I finally faced him. A mistake is spilling coffee, son. What you did? That was a choice. He looked like someone had punched the air out of him. And maybe a part of me hurt seeing him crumble. A father's heart don't harden easy, not even after betrayal. But there comes a time when a man has to draw a line. For years, I said softly, I thought getting old meant losing power. Turns out, it just meant losing patience for people who use your kindness against you. He blinked, eyes watering. Dad, I'm sorry. And maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. But forgiveness doesn't always mean reopening the door. Sometimes it just means walking away without anger in your chest. I reached out not to hug him, just to rest my hand on his shoulder. You're still my son, I said. But my life, my land, my name, those are mine. And after today, you won't be taking them from me. His voice cracked. So, what happens now? I took a long, deep breath. Cold air filled my lungs. Years of pain left with it. Now, you stand on your own 2 feet. Just like I taught you. He looked down, and I walked past him, slow, steady, unbroken. Not victorious, not bitter, just free. When I reached my truck, I paused, resting both hands on the cold metal door. And that's how I learned that even in old age, you ain't powerless. You're just finally brave enough to stop letting people walk over you. I opened the door, climbed in, and drove home. To my land, to my quiet, to the life I earned. The life I reclaimed. The life that nobody, not even my own son, would ever take from me again.